Hi, welcome. In this video, I'd like to take a few minutes to discuss the importance of staying ahead of the curve of the state of mind of the dogs as it relates to creating relational change. And this is where you will definitely see a marked distinction between how many trainers apply influence by way of a correction and at the influence level, and the difference with setting up relational change with the proactive nature with how these moments happen through the relational approach. And so this is, again, if you're watching some of my videos, I encourage you to really pay attention to when these moments happen. They're proactive in nature. You're not waiting for the mind of the dog to hit those to peak and hit those moments, because this is why people even run into problems with the level of challenge going through the roof, because they're not ahead of the curve and they're not looking at change that way. They're following a corrective type of interpretation, and so they're applying influence at certain points beyond that curve. So here, through the relational scripting process, it's really understanding, how these moments take hold, these moments of influence, how they set up to not just affect the moment you're in, but also the overall decision-making process of the dog as these moments build. It's like they're your building blocks, basically. So, whereas other people look at, talk about behavior modification and, following this learning, applying learning theory, again, it's about motives. It's really understanding, how change happens at the relational level and how to set up change through, approach and training for what it is. It's changing perceptions of the dog. So, but the moments of influence are, again, it's about they're proactive. It's not reactive. It's proactive. So it's happening at the point of the separation. As the dog invests. This is, again, really getting keying up on. As dogs gain control and power in the relationship, you'll see them invest at a high level. It's like, this is why a dog will look absolutely crazy on the leash. They'll resist being brought under leadership within the context of what's reasonable. But you'll see a high level of separation with the head turning. And this is why it's really important that you start to see it for what it is. You start to tune into the mind of the dog that way. And again, these moments are meant to interrupt those states. But when I talk about interruption, it's, again, not waiting for the mind to peak up that way. It's interrupting just as the dog's starting to invest, as the separation's happening, and then these moments are taking place. The influence is grabbing hold of the mind of the dog through how the leash is used, and again, just redirecting the dog's state of mind. And this is why, if you look, you actually will see the roadmap. I mean, you'll see at the physical level, you'll see the reaction of how the dog reacts to it. This is why every time a moment happens, you'll see the dog's head turn inward, in towards the person. You'll see every moment that takes hold, it's grabbing, the head's turning in. So once the head turns in at a certain point, the influence stops. Okay. In fact, you'll see slack. There should be slack through the collar, through the leash. Now, again, there's times there may not be slack if there's a lot of challenge going on. Okay, you may have to keep a certain level of influence going, but typically that's what you're working towards. It all moves in that direction. So the whole thing with the proactive nature of the method, it diminishes too. So everything's like a means to an end. But again, when you're looking at following how change happens, it follows the path of what's reasonable. The level of influence is not intended to be corrective in nature that way, like over the top. Again, it's just like it's communication, it's language, basically. That's what it is. You're speaking language that makes sense to the dog. The dog knows exactly what you're doing. So even when you have, say, an unreasonable reaction, sometimes it doesn't mean that the level of influence was unreasonable at all. It just means the dog's holding a lot of power, a lot of control. And but again, saying that, keeping that in mind, sometimes based on the level of power a dog's holding, you don't want that unreasonable reaction, because that may result in someone getting bitten. So this is where you have to, again, adjust yourself and look at the level of power a dog's holding to determine what the best path to take, how influence sets up, how these moments set up. So there's certain protocols you may need to bring online, such as a muzzle. But again, looking at the control issue over the owner, sometimes, making sure that if you're a dog trainer, you don't want to step into that role, because you'll get bit very fast, and not based on, influence that way. It's based on your personality type. People really need to pay attention to that. So not oftentimes better to coach the person, because the dog will be more accepting based on the fact of them having control at that level. So it's about manipulating everything to your advantage to make sure you have a positive outcome. So anyway, if you have any questions about this system, it's very different. It's very unique. It is one of a kind. I developed it, so it works extremely well. But again, I would encourage you to look beyond this whole corrective thing. That's the mainstream thinking. You see, but this is a relational system. So there's depth to it. There's a lot more going on than just meets the eye sometimes. It's really getting the person to focus in on how change is being promoted in and through the person, and how these moments set up to create change and impact the dog's overall decision-making process. So thanks for watching.